Chuck Rosenberg, let's go through the logistics of this subpoena. If, let's say, we didn't have an end date of January 2nd here, and they had more time, and we had 6 or 7 months. Is this an executable subpoena in your mind? Meaning, could a Congress eventually win this fight in court if they had the time?
Could a Congress eventually win it with enough time? Maybe, if they demonstrated a compelling need. But here are a series of problems, Chuck. Number one, Mr. Trump is not well acquainted with the truth. So even if he were inclined to testify, and I doubt that he is, getting something useful, helpful, and truthful from him seems like a long shot. Also, remember, he has invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege in other settings. And so even if the Congress were to prevail, and even if he were inclined to tell the truth on some things, perhaps, Mr. Trump could still invoke his Fifth Amendment privilege, as could anybody, if a truthful answer would tend to incriminate them. And so I'm not sure this is a fight worth fighting. It may be a political statement, and I'm not well qualified to talk about politics. I'm a little bit better on the law. But I think this is a very long walk through dry sand. Yeah,
that's what it certainly appears to. Thus, it feels more symbolic than anything. I know we've got Carol Leonnig with us, and I got to play for the control room folks. It's SOT number 2, the clip. I want to play Adam Schiff and sort of some things that we have now learned what the Secret Service knew before the January 6th attack.
By the morning of January 6th, it was clear that the Secret Service anticipated violence. It felt like the calm before the storm, one agent predicted in a Protective Intelligence Division chat group. Another remarked how agents were watching the crazies on live stream. The documents we obtained from the Secret Service make clear that the crowd outside the magnetometers was armed and the agents knew it. Take a look at what they were seeing and hearing on the ground. One report from the rally site at 7:58 a.m. said, some members of the crowd are wearing ballistic helmets, body armor, carrying radio equipment, and military-grade backpacks. Another from 9:30 a.m. said that there were possibly OC spray, meaning pepper spray, and or plastic riot shields. At 12:47 p.m., another agent responded, no doubt. The people at the Ellipse said they are moving to the Capitol after the POTUS speech. As the documents we received make clear, the Secret Service was aware of weapons possessed by those gathered at rallies in D.C. as early as the evening before.
Carol Leonnig, is this dereliction of duty by an agency?
Todd, I mean, forgive me, Chuck, you know, I think what's so striking about this is there's been a lot of reporting by my paper and my team included about intelligence failures in the walk-up to January 6th, how many red flags there were about what was going to happen that day, all the prescient warnings of a violent mob coming for the Capitol and coming for Vice President Pence. But those agencies weren't the Secret Service. The Secret Service has an entire intelligence division that's in charge of assessing the risks at protests where the president is going to appear, at places where the vice president is going to appear. And on this day, you have the president on one end of downtown Washington and the vice president with his detail on the other end, and a crew of trained professionals in risk assessment have been sorting through 10 days worth of tips and warnings about a violent, armed group that wants to attack police, that wants to kill Vice President Pence, in one instance referring to him as dead man walking. They are in possession of this information, and their number one mission is to protect both of these individuals. And there doesn't seem to be any indication that they changed any of their moves or tactics or steps other than trying to prevent Donald Trump from going to the Capitol that day as much as he wanted to go.
Carol, it is hard not to look at this and sit here and wonder about the former Deputy Chief of Staff and former Secret Service detail leader there, Tony Ornato, that he didn't have a huge role in some form of essentially preventing this from ever seeing the light of day, or certainly we didn't get any of this information until, there had to, essentially, Congress had to raise a ruckus over it in order to find different ways to find out what the Secret Service knew and when they knew it.
Well, I mean, any testimony by the White House Deputy Chief of Staff that he wasn't aware of any intelligence about threats to the protectees is just false on its face, because so many parts of the Secret Service had information about threats to the vice president. It wasn't a small and little tiny unit working alone that had this information. And you're so right, Chuck, to focus on this piece, because Tony Ornato, as hinted by the lawmakers today, is viewed as a not credible witness, a person who did not give accurate testimony. And you'll remember, Tony Ornato is also the person who privately disputed what Cassidy Hutchinson said, her startling bombshell testimony that President Trump physically lunged for his Secret Service detail leader. He was so angry at the idea that he couldn't go to the Capitol. He was grasping for the steering wheel and for the neck of his agent. Tony Ornato said that never happened, or he doesn't know about such a thing, and he hasn't said so under oath yet.
I think he had promised to do that, and we've yet to get that.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.